Hello. When I was asked to do this about 2 weeks ago, Dave said, or I asked Dave, how much do these people know about rock art? Because I'm used to speaking to rock art symposiums. And he said, probably not a whole lot. So this is going to be an introduction. We're going to fly through about 130 slides of some of my favorite rock art sites in the general area, so you can get an idea of what's out there. Let me say as an introduction, rock art gives you a window into the intellectual cultures of the peoples who lived here long before us. And it's a lot of fun to go look for rock art. So I'm going to start up in the northeast by Vernal. This one's in Dinosaur National Monument. The thing that's in the hand, like this, is actually a head. And we'll see some more details of that. So that whole thing about, organic Indians living peacefully in harmony with their environment, yeah, but maybe not with their neighbors. This is also in Vernal at McConkey Ranch, which is a private property, but they encourage visitors. You pay a few dollars, it's well worth it. And you can see that those are heads that they've got hanging down there. This is also at McConkey Ranch. Very, very exquisite petroglyphs. These are all from the Fremont culture so far. So they're like 800 to 1,500 years old. Dating is really inaccurate with rock art, so don't worry about the dates that much. And some people think that this one, and this one are actually portraits of real people. Two of them are wearing masks. Okay, 9 Mile Canyon is near the big city of Wellington, if you've been there south of Price. And it's actually about 40 miles long, and it's full of thousands of rock art sites. On the right, you see, I like the spiral that turns into a snake with horns on its head. We'll see a lot of those horned snakes. And next is also a 9 Mile Canyon. This is called the family panel. You've got Daddy in the middle, and then Mom off to his right and Junior in between. And then probably this is Junior's pet scorpion, would be my guess. Okay, in the San Rafael Swell, just north of Interstate 70, is the Black Dragon site. Somebody thought that it was cool to outline it with chalk. Don't ever do anything like that. And so they made this dragon. I don't know what they were thinking. First of all, it's not black. I don't know where they got that. But using a computer program called D-Stretch, you can see what's really there. So on the right, you've got a snake with little horns and a huge mouth about to bite that big guy in the butt. And you can see his head up here with a couple of eyes, little arms sticking out. And so it has nothing to do with dragons or black. But it's a very interesting site. And there's more there besides this. That went too fast. So this is in the swell also. This one's not so easy to get to, but it's a spectacular panel. We're going to look at the top third, then the middle, then the bottom for details. So in the top, you've got this person with the magic fingers and those things that are flying out from there. I call them flying hairballs. I have no idea what they are, but we'll see them in other places as well. And then moving down to the middle of the panel, I think you've got a rain cloud at the bottom with rain coming down and a rainbow over that. I'm not sure what the rest of it's all about. And this is the bottom, a little less clear, but you can tell that there's a lot going on. This is a great site, but it's a long hike. Also in the swell, some very exquisite painting. Now, these last few have been archaic, so that means 2,000 to 4,000 years old in most cases. So we're going to move from the right to the left here. On the right, I really like this, that one. He's got some vegetation in one hand, and then he has roots coming out of the bottom of his feet. You've got this group of walkers. You can see on the right there that somebody tried to hack that one out of the rock. Obviously, we don't want to do that. Fortunately, they failed. And these are very detailed. I think the hair on some of those hanging down was probably painted with, well, like one hair for a brush. They're small and very detailed. And then you can see that group in the lower right here at the main part of the panel. And once again, you've got a snake flying at some guy about to bite him, and the snake is drooling, and he's got horns on his head. It's a common theme. This one is by I-70 at the top of the swell. You can actually, if you're taking this picture, you turn around and you can see the semis going by. It's that close to the interstate. Very exquisite painting. And about 10 or 15 feet to the left, you've got this. That's not a great picture, but we're going to look at details here. So this is the first group. Notice that in the large figure in the middle, both the hands and the feet have holes painted in them. And that sort of a dog person on the left also has holes in the hands and feet. I'm not sure why, but they're obviously there. And then this is a detail of part of what was on the other side. And you can see birds flying up and down the antlers and snake in the hand, and there's some of those flying hairballs again. Okay, at Buckhorn, this is a great one to visit if you're past your hiking days, because you can drive right up to this one and park there, and even have a bathroom and everything. It's a huge site, and this is just a small part of it. Notice in the lower right, that's pretty smudgy, but with the D-stretch, you start to see the details there. So if I had been smart enough to take a close-up picture of that and then de-stretch it, I could have seen what was there, but I didn't even know there was anything there. This is also at Buckhorn, just a little bit to the left of the other one. This is my favorite part of the Buckhorn panel. Getting closer, you can see there's three groups of these really tall, skinny figures. And I think the reason why there are three different sizes, they're meant to be like the one is closer and the other one's farther away and so forth, the perspective, in other words. And this is getting closer to my favorite part of it. Once again, you can see birds flying up one side and down the other on the one figure, and a lot of other things. We could spend forever talking about these, but I got to keep moving. This one's also in the swell, a little harder to find. What I really like for this one, you can see it in the D-stretch. In addition to that drooling snake on the right edge, notice that those guys there, they've got like fireworks coming out of their heads. I mean, it was probably feathers, but they're really dramatic. Also in the swell, now there's a myth very common throughout the Southwest of the master or mistress of animals. That's the person who controls the game animals that people get. And I think this is related to that. That's just my guess. But that central figure has a female bighorn sheep head with a snake for a tongue, human arms and torso, a tail of a canine, a wolf or a coyote, and bird feet. And you've got sheep going to it from both sides. And then with D-stretch, I didn't even notice this at first, but in the upper left there, you've got one of those snakes with horns on its head again. Rochester Creek is also in the swell. Obviously, there's a lot of good rock art in the swell. And this is petroglyphs, but we're going to start with what's up there, which you can't even see right now. But a little close, there you got it again, a snake with flying at some guy. It must have happened a lot back then, I don't know. And the animals here are unique and really, really well done. There's no other place that has animals like this in the rock art. Thompson was just mentioned in the last presentation. Thompson's north of Moab along the interstate, and you can drive right up to this site. It's really educational because this panel is archaic, and right around the corner is one that's archaic in Fremont, and then across a little wash, there's the Ute panel, so you get to see different styles. So looking a little closer, some of you are probably older than me. I'm going to guess most of you are about my age or older. You probably remember Eric von Däniken and Chariots of the Gods. It was on TV commercials all the time. He used this panel and some other panels to prove that aliens came and were here. And you can tell because they're wearing helmets and they got antennas, just like in the science sci-fi movies, right? So you got it right here. And there's D-stretch. D-stretch helps you to see details a little better. It was developed by a man named John Harmon, who's a rock art researcher, and he worked for NASA, actually developed this stuff to analyze pictures taken on Mars. But then he made it simpler. I can put that in quotes for people like me to use because I have no idea what his instructions mean, but I had other people show me how to use it. But it's available and easy to get and use. I like this one. I wish that the face hadn't chipped off. But look in the arm turns into something weird, and that looks like a mushroom to me over there. Okay, also in the Moab area, this one, notice that the central figure has totally different hands on either side and totally different feet. But when I de-stretched this, I was shocked because that's what I got. All that yellow, which had faded over time, you don't see it with your naked eye, but there's a lot of it. So there was a lot more going on. Oops. This one is called the Intestine Man panel. I actually think that character in the middle is not an intestine man, that it's a leather bag with a snake design on it with feathers on the bottom, but I could be wrong. Here's a detail of the character on the right. I think over the left shoulder, you've got a couple of hummingbirds, and over the right shoulder, you have insects. This is across the canyon from the last one. It's called Snake in Mouth. You can see a rain cloud at the top. And this is a detail of the face. And there it is. There's a blue snake in the mouth and blue eyes as well. And this is from the same canyon. This is a famous owl petroglyph in the Moab area. I really like this one. Unfortunately, this site's sort of hard to get to, but on this panel, there are 15 or 16 flute players, and you can tell this one's really having a good time. I mean, he's going to it. You know, I can't help but think that those squiggly lines are sound, and here are a couple more flute players from the same site. People were having a good time at this place, I guarantee it. Okay, in the needles, it's called the faces motif. This is the 4 faces. Unfortunately, it's a pretty long hike these days. And this motif is only found around that area. It was either one artist or maybe one family or one clan. And so this is the 4 faces. They sort of look cartoonish. And this is the 5 faces. Notice that they smoothed out the rock where the face is before they did their painting. These are 2 faces from the 13 Faces site. And this one is called the All-American Man. It's way up Salt Creek. It's a backpack to get to it now. It didn't used to be, but they closed that road down 25 years ago at least. It wasn't a road anyway. It was just a route you could do in a tough vehicle. This is probably the best, in my opinion, the most interesting panel or site in North America for rock art. It's the Great Gallery in the west edge of Canyonlands. I've talked about the Great Gallery for an hour and a half before. Can't do it today. But it's about 100 yards long. You're just seeing part of it. That figure on the end's 9 feet tall. So that tells you how big all this stuff is. And so this is just a detail of one part of it. It was actually out of the last picture. I couldn't get it all in the last picture. But notice that you've got some supernatural looking beings above an arc in the rock. And then off to the right, you've got a human, arms and legs, seeming to be interacting with those. This is that human. Notice wearing some kind of a garment that has pieces hanging down by the legs. And then with D-stretch, you can see that stick in his or her hand has an arrowhead shape at the bottom and feathers at the top. And this is what your eyes focus on when you get to the Great Gallery. So that central figure is about 7 feet tall. And again, the different sizes, I think these are coming to you from inside the rock. And the big figure with the detail is at the rock and is talking to you. It really feels that way. Notice that little bit on the right side of the head makes the head three-dimensional. And they did understand how to do some of that. Some of the artists did. So this is archaic. It's been dated all kinds of different ways. The one that I think is most convincing is 8,000 years old. And still, it might be wrong, but there have been things dated very convincingly at 9,000 years old. We're talking about a basket that was found just up canyon. That's old. It's older than us. Some of us. So here's another detail from the Great Gallery. A really exquisite painting of those sheep. Totally detailed, totally realistic. You have to get up close to look to really see it. This one is the most decorated figure at the Great Gallery. In addition to all those things inside of it, I was surprised when I de-stretched it, and you've got a row of sheep walking across the body, and then they turn around and go back the other way. And then when you look at the whole thing, there's a row of sheep leaving that character and going to the one next door. In the maze, the harvest scene, this is just a part of it, but it's the main part. And so I'm going to look at the far right. And you can see, first of all, there's a harvester with a burden basket. We saw that in the presentation of photographs a little bit ago. And this is a harvesting tool. But the main thing is this guy, or girl, whatever, with a huge hand, and growing out of the middle finger is so exquisitely painted that it's definitely Indian rice grass. And you can't see it here. I should have de-stretched this. But those are roots, not legs, coming out from the bottom. And also this one is also at the harvest scene. This is a person wearing a dress-like garment. In the left hand is a evergreen bough, I think, and in the right hand a stick with a feather on it, and this person is wearing a mask. This one is just in perfect condition. It looks really good. A little hard to find. But getting closer, you can see the one figure. And look at that stripe down the middle of the bottom, and there's two stripes on the face as well. With de-stretch they look blue. They might have been black, or they might have been a dark blue, but a different color anyway. This one's called the dragonfly site. And there's the dragonflies. And there's a lot more at this site besides what you just saw here. In the bluff area, some of you have probably seen this, very iconic picture of a shorebird. Petroglyph, this would be in the Anasazi time range. And this is nearby it. Very exquisite pecking of the petroglyphs. You've even got muscles in the legs of that character. People call this the wolf man panel. I don't know why. I always called it the wolf track panel because it's got wolf tracks on it. But anyway, it's a really neat site. This is on Combe Ridge. You've got a lot of little people going to and from that circle in the middle, probably something to do with migration. And this is by Sand Island. You river runners have probably been to Sand Island to go down to San Juan. This is upstream from the Put In. And this is at the big site downstream. I included this because it has a sheep playing a flute. And river runners, you've probably seen this just below Butler Wash. This is considered to be basket maker in age, probably 200 to 600 AD, something like that. That's just rough guess. Getting a little closer. And I like this one it's at the same site because you've got those curvy arms and the digits in the hand, but I like the little guy like on daddy's shoulder or mom's shoulder, whatever it is. Cedar Mesa, this is in Grand Gulch, lots of color. The bird was in white, but its eye is in maroon rimmed with gold. Nope, they're not aliens. They're not. I gave a presentation to the students in Moab on rock art, and like 200 of them came to it. And the most common question I got was, is it true the aliens made all that? There's some TV show, it's called Ancient Aliens. I think they got it off of that. But I know they look like aliens, but no, they aren't. Now, this is one of those heads that we saw people carrying earlier. And there's actually, this is a loop at the top that you carry it by. So they debone the head, they take the skull out, and they paint, this case, the face is painted up, and you got the hair hanging down, and they carry him around for some reason. I don't know why. But archaeologists have apparently have found these things, you know. This one is rarely seen. I've never seen it in a book, but I really like the abstract design. Totally different from other things. There's a ruin at this place. And you can see that the white artwork was done over red squiggly stuff. When you see this, it means that the white is younger. Now, it could be anywhere from 6,000 years to 20 minutes younger, but it does mean that it's younger when you have superimposition. That's my son at a place called Moon House. He's an adult now, but so this is a plastered ruin that was painted on the front that's still preserved. And that design, that white design goes into this room, goes all the way around the room and then comes back out. And in that white band inside the room, there is a full moon and a crescent moon, and that's why it's called Moon House. Here, this is a duck head person. With the Anasazi, you see duck heads and sheep heads quite a bit. This is in Hanksville. It's different in that it's done on granite, and you know, if you think you're a really tough guy, you're not a tough guy until you can have 3 long writhing snakes in your right hand and 2 in your left hand. Then you're probably a tough guy. This is along North Wash between Hanksville and Height. Some of you have probably seen it. They call it Cleopatra of North Wash. There's no reason to assume gender, male or female. I included this one. It's abstract, and I don't have a lot of abstract art in this presentation, but there's plenty of abstract rock art. This is considered to be Middle Archaic, which is probably, you know, like 4,000 to 9,000 years old or something. It's old stuff. Parowan Gap, I don't even know if that's in the Colorado River Basin, but it's a really neat site. And this thing in the middle is called the zipper glyph. And when archaeologists first came to the area, they asked the local Paiutes, what is that? And they said it's a map. And there have been some researchers who basically proved that to be the case. It's a map of the area. All right, Kanab area, a Mansard site. It's just outside of town here to the east. You do have to go up to the top of the cliffs in a trail. It's a good trail. This is totally unique. I've never seen anything like that anywhere. And this one is what I had on my title slide. Very exquisitely made maze. And you've got a spiral that turns into a 2-headed snake that's either entering or guarding the maze. And in the upper left-hand corner, you've got a guy with a centipede across his legs. This one is down House Rock Valley Road, about 3 or 4 miles south of the border into Arizona. There's a parking area on the right and a little kiosk on the left, and you have to walk about, I don't know, 1/3 of a mile. So it's something you can go see while you're here. This one is called South Fork of Indian Canyon. It's north of town. Lots and lots of images here. Lots of colors. Just a couple details from it. In this style, it's called Cave Valley style from this area. It's early Anasazi. A lot of what I would call a twins motif. You see a lot of twins, I think. Here's another. And this one, burden baskets. Many burden baskets, and they're all different. And I've never seen that in rock art anywhere else. All right, Snake Gulch is a tributary of Kanab Creek, and it has spectacular rock art. And so just a couple of examples. This one really lights up in D-stretch. I like those 50s tennis sweaters, you know, if you remember what they were like. The Beach Boys were into that stuff too. This one, that central figure here is probably about 4 feet tall. I love the way that they make a person very abstract, but it's still a person in a torso. All right, Grand Canyon. This is hard to get to. If you look, you can see there's rock art all across there, and there's more than what you can see. This is very different stuff. It's archaic. It's old. So we're going to look at one detail. Notice that these figures are all jammed together. And D-stretch brings out a lot of color. There's a lot of superimposition here, a lot of things on top of things. Get a little closer. That's different from rock art I've seen anywhere else. This is another part of the same site. And these are large. These are 6, 7 feet tall. This one, you might want to argue that this is evidence that the Western archaic people of the Arizona Strip played basketball with dogs, but they probably didn't. But that's such a mythic image, you know, and a lot, if you want to try to interpret these things, you got to think in terms of mythology, because that's the way those people were thinking, in the way a lot of Native Americans still do, because I know I taught Native Americans 14 years. This one I really like because it shows the ability to make a three-dimensional thing. I don't know what this is. Maybe a fish trap with a handle at each end. I'm just guessing. But look at how that is strictly conical, three-dimensional thing. And they looked at it and they reproduced it. This is from that same site. They look like they're standing up except for the one that's upside down, but actually they're on the ceiling above you, and probably 6 or 7 feet long. Extremely detailed. Really neat stuff. I could talk for an hour on this, but obviously I can't today. Oops, let me go back one. You can have a little bit better look at that. This is from the same site. I think that those three are probably dancers, because they seem to be in motion. Okay, down in Arizona, Little Colorado drainage has a lot of rock art, and you can see it's very different. Notice the little dragonflies in between the heads. And this is from the same area. This is a really good Halloween picture, don't you think? And you could just put that right out in front of your house. And this is from the same general area. All of these, were called anthropomorphs. In other words, a human-like figure. They're all different. And this, from the same general area, I think is Hopi and just a few hundred years old, if that. But it's much more like contemporary Pueblo designs. And Hopi people do use this area. Now, this is roughly close to the Petrified Forest National Park. And this is called the mother of game. It's a pretty common motif in Pueblo rock art. And so she's in the birthing position, and she gives birth to all the game animals. And it appears in many places, not just this one. This is in the park in a museum. Unfortunately, I think that this was probably removed when a road was made, so they put it in this little museum just north of the interstate in the Petrified Forest National Park. But that's a mountain lion, and that's the most detailed mountain lion I saw at that park. There's a lot of mountain lions in the rock art, but this is really spectacular. Okay, New Mexico. Dineta is the area the Navajo people lived in from 1700 to 1750, so we know how old this is. And with what I know of Navajo mythology, this character's named Gaskide, which means humpback, and he's one of the mountain sheep people. That's why he's got the horns. And he's a fertility character for plants. So he's got a digging stick on the left there, and then the hump contains seeds and mist. Not that I can see that in the rock art, but I know that from the mythology. This is another character from the Navajo stories. This, to me, is probably the most exquisitely made rock art I have seen. It's Navajo again, from that, just 300 years old or so. On the right, you've got two of the supernatural beings. Now, in the sand paintings, Navajo sand paintings, round heads mean male and square or rectangular heads mean female. So you've got humpback Gaskide. He's right here. That's another one. But then those are female dancers. We're going to look closer at them. So you can see that they're all different. And this is what they did. First they made a petroglyph, and then they painted it. Can you see that in the grooves in the rock? Now today in sand paintings, they'll first make a tan body, a naked body, and then they put the clothes on. I think this is the same idea going on here. Just look at the detail there. That's just amazing. You could do that in rock with, using other rocks, really. Okay, we're getting to the end here. This is the only image I've got from Colorado, but it's a good one. This is a really iconic image. I used to have this on my Toyota 4Runner in a decal, but then I sold the car and the decal went with it, so I'll have to get another one. But anyway, I think we're towards the end because that's my last slide. I can't help but wonder if this was the Osmond family coming into Utah. It's possible anyway. So I am a member of the Utah Rock Art Research Association. It's a very active group. Before the pandemic, we had over 500 members. I don't know what we have now. And we just started once again doing monthly field trips. And that's how I got to see a lot of this rock art. And you get to meet some other people that like rock art. You get to travel around and eat in restaurants and camp and stuff. But anyway, if you are interested in that group, you can just put URARA in the search, and it's going to come up with Utah Rock Art Research Association and a whole lot of Japanese people's names, because apparently it's a common name in Japan. And but choose the Utah Rock Art Research Association and go to the website, and you can get all kinds of information and find out about rock art if you want to pursue that as an interest.